Hello and welcome to the Premiere Pro Workshop with Studio Co. My name is Toby and today I'm going to be walking you through this beautiful tutorial created by my colleague Andy Robbins. Let's go ahead and get started. So, before we do anything else, I'm going to show you guys the final product of the video that we will be creating today.
Hello there. Welcome to Studio Co's Premiere Pro Workshop. We're going to show you how to do a lot of stuff today. This is the first half of a smash cut. That's the other half. And now we're in front of a green screen. Wouldn't it be cool if we were in a classroom? Or maybe if we were flying through space? Or maybe if I were holding a ball? I forgot to tell you, I have a twin brother. Hi there, I'm Chase.
Alright, so that is the video that we will be creating today. And we are going to go ahead and just jump right in. So the first thing I'm going to want you to do is open Premiere Pro, which is this little purple PR icon. If it's not docked anywhere on your computer, it will be found in your Finder under Applications. I'm going to double click on that. And I already had it open. Usually it would take a while to load, but it did not. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So this is our opportunity to name and choose the save location for our project. I'm going to call this Andy's Workshop Practice. I'm going to hit Browse, and then I will save it to my folder on this computer. I'll just save it in here, choose. This display format basically determines the time signature. I'm going to keep it on timecode, keep the rest of this the same, and just hit OK. This will take us into our main Premiere workspace. Before I get started, I'm going to sort of go over the different workspaces. The main one that we will be using is the editing workspace, which is the one that you see open here. The different panels that we'll be using in the editing workspace are the source panel. This is where you can edit clips before they're actually imported into the timeline for your final movie. It's also where we'll access the effect controls within the editing workspace, which will come into play later. This here, the program panel, is where you will see the final movie as it is being assembled in the timeline. The timeline is where you will do most of your assembling, so all of your trimming, placement, effects, those sorts of things will all be dropped in right here. And then the project panel is where we will find our media, so the footage and film that we will actually be using. Like I said, we'll be using the editing workspace primarily today. We'll also be using the effects workspace, which is virtually the same as our editing workspace, except for this massive effects panel over here. I just prefer working with this big effects panel. But you can see inside of editing, we can also access our effects through the project panel. The other ones we have are learning, which contains Premiere Pro's tutorials. We have assembly, which is just for basic assemblage, not as much working with effects and that sort of thing. Color for color corrections, audio for audio corrections, and graphics for things like text and Adobe stock images. I'm going to come back over to editing, and we are going to get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is import the media that we'll be working with today. The easiest way to do that is double-click within the project panel, but you can also access the import option from File. So I'm going to go Import, navigate to the folder that we will be using today, and click Import. I could also import these one by one, but I need this whole folder, so we're going to use that. And we will see it pop up here once it's done loading. Perfect. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is just drag film or footage into the timeline, and it's as simple as clicking and dragging. So we're going to want to use the intro clip first, and all I did was click, drag, and drop it into the timeline, and now you see we have all of our timeline controls. So normally the next step would be to trim this footage. Andy has done us the favor of trimming most of these to the right length, but I will show you guys how to accomplish that with the next couple of clips that we drag in. For now, the one important thing I want to make note of are these different channels. So you see V1, V2, V3, A1, A2, A3. Normally when you drop in a clip, they'll be linked. Here, I'll show you. So when I drop it in, they will be in corresponding channels. And the way these channels work are like layers in other Adobe programs. So your footage that is on the top channel will appear above your footage in the bottom channels. You'll see what I mean as we continue to work, but I just wanted to point that out right now. Another thing that I'm going to have you guys do before we continue is turn off audio scrubbing. So you'll notice as I grab the playhead, which is this little diamond up here, and move it across the footage, that we get this annoying sound, which is the audio in the clip. And the way we're going to get rid of that is coming up here, clicking on Premiere Pro, going to Preferences, Audio, and unclicking Play Audio while scrubbing. I'm going to hit OK. We'll go ahead and import our next footage into our next clip into the timeline. So what we're going to grab next is Smash Cut Head. You can just drag that and drop that in here. And then I will show you guys how to trim.
This is the first half of a smash cut.
So right when he claps, we're going to want to end the footage. And the easiest way to get rid of the second half of this video that we don't want is to use our blade tool, shortcut C, or our razor tool, pardon me. And then we can just click where we want to cut it. Then we can grab our selection tool again, shortcut V, select that, and hit delete. And now,
this is the first half of a smash cut.
Our footage ends right when he claps. I actually cut it a little too short, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Command Z to undo that. Move my playhead forward a couple frames by using page down. Oh, never mind, that's what it is in After Effects, but not on here. By using the arrow keys to move one frame at a time. So we should hear the sound by then. Grab that blade tool again, cut, and delete. Alright, so now we're going to want to drag our smash cut tail on. And this time, I'll drag it to like right here. You'll notice that we need to cut a little bit in the beginning, because we want just the clap.
That's the other half.
And then we'll need to clip the end as well. So instead of using our blade tool, we're going to use an even simpler method, keeping our selection tool activated. We'll go ahead and play this. Find the frame right where he claps with our arrow keys. That looks about good. And then hover above this clip until you see that little red icon appear. And then you can just click and drag from the side until it's the length that you want it to be. We're going to do the same thing from the right. Also, right now I'd like to note that this down here is how you zoom in and out. And I'm just going to zoom in so we can get a little more accurate. Oh.
That's the other half.
So about right there looks good to me. I'm going to click and drag this from the right. And now we have our smash cut.
That's the other half.
It's a little off, but for the sake of this tutorial, that will work. The next thing that we're going to work with is the green screen and Ultra Key effect. And in order to get started on that, we want to drag in our green screen class clip. I'm going to go ahead and put that into our timeline. It's already trimmed. Thank you once again, Andy. And so now I'm going to show you guys how to remove green screen and replace it with a background. Well, actually, I should have done this when I first drug in the clip, but we will actually want our green screen footage on a higher channel. Whenever you work with green screening and ultra keying, you will want your green screen on top and your background on bottom of the audio channel as well, just for the sake of my OCD. And then we're going to drag in our classroom clip and adjust its length so that it is the same as our footage. Now, I'm going to have you guys switch over to the effects window and search for Ultra Key. There it is under Video Effects and Keying, and the way you apply effects to a clip in Premiere Pro is simply by clicking and dragging the effect onto the clip that you wish to affect. So I'm going to drag the Ultra Key onto our green screen class, and you'll notice up here in our source panel that we have effect controls. I'm going to go ahead and undo this effect actually, so you'll see it disappear, and whenever you drag an effect onto a clip, you will get its controls up here in the effect controls in the source panel. So how the Ultra Key works, basically you choose the key color, that is the color that you wish to remove. The color we wish to remove is green, and we're going to want to use the green that falls in the mid-tones of this background green screen here. And the way we're going to do that, we're going to select this eyedropper tool, and then we're just going to click in here. And you can see that the computer removes the background for us. So you can see that our classroom is a little small right now, and we're going to want to change that before we work with our Ultra Key anymore. So let's go ahead and click on our classroom. You'll see its effect controls pop up here, and we're just going to want to increase the scale until it fills the whole window. And the way to do that, you can either click once and type in a value, 300. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Command Z. Or you can click and drag to the left and right like so. We'll do it right there, 295. That works. So let's go ahead and reselect our green screen class and come down to matte generation. So the matte generation basically affects how the green screen will actually it affects how the green screen is actually removed to reveal the background. And we're going to go through matte generation and matte cleanup. Spill suppression and color correction are more artistic preferences, so we're going to skip those today, but I encourage you in your free time to play with these parameters and see what they do. Desaturate, obvious. Alright, we'll leave that alone. So matte generation, transparency affects how much of the green screen is actually transparent. So if we put it all the way up, it'll be our whole green screen footage layer, which we don't want. If we turn it all the way down, it will be opaque and we won't be able to see any of the background. And 45 is actually a pretty good setting on this one, so I'm just going to leave it at the default. Highlight affects how much of the brights in the green screen footage will be removed. So you can see here it's a lot, here it's virtually none. Again, the default 10 works pretty well, so we're just going to keep it there. Shadow is the same thing as highlight, except for the dark spots instead of bright spots. So I actually like turning this all the way down just because it gets rid of some of that graininess, which hopefully we can eradicate fully once we do pedestal. Actually, yeah, we'll go about there actually, because you can see that's about where we started. You can see in his armpit, it's getting a little bit pixelated. So we'll actually keep it at about 40. Tolerance basically determines the range that the hue can vary from your selected key color. So the higher the tolerance, the more shades of green from this base tone of green will be removed. The lower the tolerance, the closer the colors will have to be to this base green to actually be removed. I'm going to leave that at 50. Pedestal affects the blacks in the image. I'm actually going to turn that all the way up, and you can see that that sort of graininess disappears entirely. I'm going to close that drop-down menu, twirl down matte cleanup, and work with these next. So the choke, most of matte cleanup affects the outlines of objects not removed by the Alt key. Choking basically draws in that outline, so I'll show you. I'll turn it all the way up, and we can see Andy slowly start to disappear. And basically the reason we use choke is to get rid of that sort of green halo. I also just noticed Andy's hair is pretty transparent up here, and that's probably because of our shadows. So I'm going to turn that back up actually. Should have just left it at 50. Oh well, live and learn. Soften works. I'm going to try to get this where we can see his hands actually, just so we're not cutting off too much of his fingers. So there we can see pretty well. So soften basically feathers out the edges and makes them bleed into the background. It works a lot like choke in terms of what it produces visually. So you can see it's a fine line between getting rid of the halo and getting rid of Andy. We're just going to keep that at 10. Contrast affects the contrast between the objects not removed by the green screen and the green screen background. Turn that up just a little bit. And the midpoint sort of does the same thing. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know exactly what the midpoint does, but it's just another degree of control. He still has a little bit of a halo at times, so I'm just going to turn that choke up just a little bit more. There we go. Alright, so that's it for our Alt keying. And now we're going to continue working with green screen. And I'm going to have you drag in green screen space once again into the second channel. Underneath that, I want you to drag in the space.mp4 footage. And we're going to zoom way out and trim it so that it is the same length as our green screen footage. Now we could drag in this Alt key effect again and redo everything from scratch, or we can take a shortcut and copy and paste the effects from this footage onto this footage. And the way that you do that is by either right-clicking or hitting Command-C, choosing Copy, then right-clicking on the footage where you want to paste the attributes and choosing, ding ding ding, you guessed it, Paste Attributes. Normally when you open Paste Attributes, all of these boxes are checked. In this case, we only want to paste our effects, so we're going to uncheck all of these boxes so that only our effects box is checked. And you can see the second we hit OK, Andy is now flying through space with a lot less work than redoing our Alt key from scratch. Now the last sort of compositing technique I'm going to show you guys is juxtaposing an image on top of footage, and we're going to start by dragging holding ball into the first channel. Let's move our playhead over it so we can see what's going on. And let's find the exact moment when Andy brings his hands together to hold the ball. Right about there, looks good to me. Now let's drag the ball onto the second channel. You'll notice it's way too big right now. We're going to fix that in a second. Let me trim it first so that it's at the end of this clip. And we're going to want to come over and just like with our classroom image, we're going to want to change the scale. You'll notice that right now we have the scale linked, but if we unlink it, then we could do the width and height separately. We actually don't need to do that. We want it to be linked, but it's just a good thing to make note of. We're going to go ahead, decrease the scale, and then change its position until it's in Andy's hands. Another good thing to note when working with programs like Premiere Pro or After Effects, to change the Y value, going down actually moves the ball up, and increasing the value moves the ball down. That's because 0, 0 is the upper left corner of the screen. So the X position moves from left to right, but the Y position moves from top to bottom. I'm going to go ahead and just make that a little bit better. And voila. So the last thing we're going to do is create that cool twin effect that fell at the end of the video. I'm going to start by dragging in twin left into the first channel. We'll move our playhead over it. And twin right above it. Where is it? Twin right above it so that their ends match. Now the problem you'll notice right away, the second that we get to our second clip, this Andy disappears because now this footage is on top and it is the only footage showing. So what we're going to want to do is crop this video so that the twin left is still exposed underneath. And the way we're going to do that is with another effect which can be found under Video Effects, Transform, and then the one we're looking for is Crop. I'm just going to search Crop. There it is. We'll click and drag it onto twin right, and then you can see the crop controls appear in the source panel. How this crop effect works is basically you say what percentage of the frame you want to be cropped and from which direction. You could also use your ellipse mask, you could use a pen mask to do custom shapes, rectangular mask, but for the sake of this video, all we're going to need to do is drag in from the left and watch as our original Andy is slowly unveiled. I'm going to set it right at 50%. One thing you will notice with this effect, let's get it right at 50. So you can kind of see a line down the middle of the screen where this half is lighter and this half is darker. And an easy way to get rid of that is to use this edge feather parameter. So as we increase it, sort of like with the Alt key soften, it would just make these frames bleed into each other instead of coming to this hard line, which is most visible right here. So we're going to go ahead, increase that feather until they bleed into each other seamlessly. Perfect. So we'll play through this for a second.
Hello there. Welcome to Studio Co's Premiere Pro Workshop. We're going to show you how to do a lot of stuff today.
And you should notice that one thing is still missing, namely our background music. So we're going to go ahead and drag in Wagon Wheel onto this bottom audio channel. Zoom out and trim it so that it is the same length as the rest of our clip. The rest of our finished film, I should say. And now when we play through,
this is the first half.
You'll notice the music is way too loud and drowns out Andy. So we could come over to our audio panel and change it there, but I'm going to bring us back to editing. And instead, we're going to right click on it and come to audio gain. So we have a couple options here. We can set the gain manually, we can adjust it. If we do adjust it, we can click up and down with our arrow keys, hold shift to do even integers. This is where we'll also find normalization options inside of Premiere, and And what normalizing does is basically takes the highest peaks and lowest valleys of the audio waveform and compresses it so that it is normalized, so that it all sort of falls within a standardized decibel range, so you don't get sudden bursts of really loud noise or sudden burst of like really quiet voices. We're going to go ahead and adjust this gain by -7. You'll notice this waveform decreased a bunch.
This is the first half of a smash cut.
I'm going to go even a little bit lower. This is really just a matter of guessing and testing. Say -9, see what that sounds like.
Pro Workshop. We're going to show you how to do a lot of stuff today. This is
Perfect. So that looks good to me. And that does it for the assemblage of our film. The last step is to export it. So if we just came up to Premiere and went File Save or Save As, it would only save a Premiere project file, this .prproj that you see up here, which is not a format that you can just plug into any computer and fire up on a media player and watch your film. What we'll want is something more like a .mov or MP4 file. And the way we're going to accomplish that is by coming up to File, going to Export, and choosing Media. You can see the shortcut was Command-M. The format we're going to want to use is actually H.264. H.264 is an MP4 file. Its compression is pretty good. It's a pretty small file relatively, and it has very little resolution or detail loss, so it's virtually the industry standard. You can also see like MPEG-4 down here, Blu-ray, QuickTime. You can export just the audio, but we want H.264. I won't play with any of these settings, but you can see there's quite a bit you can do before you actually export. The main thing we're going to want to worry about is this output name, which gives us the chance to determine where this project, this movie, will actually be saved. It's already saving to the Tobias folder, but I'm going to go ahead and change its name to, let's go Andy's Workshop Practice Final Video. And save. And then once we hit export, you'll see how long it takes before it is finished. I'm going to go ahead and wait just so I can show you guys the finished product. Beautiful. So now it's come into our Finder. Navigate into my folder. Open this MP4 file.
Hello there. Welcome to Studio Co's Premiere Pro Workshop. We're going to show you how to do a lot of stuff today. This is the first half of a smash cut. That's the other half. And now we're in front of a green screen. Wouldn't it be cool if we were in a classroom? Or maybe if we were flying through space? Or maybe if I were holding a ball? I forgot to tell you, I have a twin brother. Hi there, I'm Chase.
And just like that, we have a film virtually identical to the one I showed you guys at the beginning of this tutorial. So that does it for the Premiere Pro workshop here at Studio Co. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, bye.